they're like, oh yes, you have to reparent your child. And you're like, I'm barely able to take care of myself as an adult. You want me not going to take care of a child as well? I'm like childless by choice. I was not meant to have children. I wasn't supposed to have to do this part of this.
Hello, and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
So I can't believe that I had a little notification pop up on my laptop this morning saying that it is 15 years to the day since I left corporate life. And I just have one question, like, how? Because I've been doing this work for decades. So it's just not physically possible that it's only been 15 years. I mean, literally, I feel like I've been doing this work for lifetimes. And it's like, it's only 15 years, really? I mean, I was kind of sort of doing it a little bit before that, but wow, that's wild. I mean,
well, Claire had let me know that the notification popped up for her too. And I'm like, well, we've known each other for like 120 years, haven't we? Like the fact that we haven't even it hasn't even been 10 years yet. That just is mind-blowing.
Yes. I mean,
haven't I been away from corporate for 15 years? Like,
you wish you'd been away from corporate for 15 years.
True story.
That's not the same thing. But even just thinking that it's what, like 6 years since you came on board to the business, and I'm like, surely we've been working together for 60 years already. I mean, it's not possible that it's only 6. Like it's wild. It's wild. It's so funny how like some things can feel like they just happened, and they also feel like they're like decades ago as well at the same time. It's very weird.
Time is wonky at best these days.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. But I'm glad I made the decision I did. Like, we wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't made that decision, which is right? In so many ways. I mean, I literally physically wouldn't be here, like on this island. We wouldn't be doing this work. We would never have met.
No. It's weird.
Wow. That's very weird.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's skirt around that rabbit hole because the only rabbit holes we want to talk about today are the ones that occur in childlike stories like Alice in Wonderland. See, like, nice little segue there.
Nice segue.
Because today, the reason we're talking about the inner child today is because like a couple of episodes ago, I was like, we mentioned the inner child in passing. Well, we put the link to that episode in the show notes, and then we went back to do the show notes, and we're like, where's the episode about the inner child? I'm like, oh, we haven't done one yet. We're nearly at 200 episodes, and we haven't done an episode about the inner child. How is that even possible? And apparently it is. So I thought, well, the first best time to have done it would have been like 100 episodes ago, and the second best time to do it is today. So we went for option B. Because I think that the inner child is this kind of thing that a lot of people know about. Like it's like a lot of things when it comes to like therapeutic speech, where a lot of therapeutic speech, thanks to TikTok and YouTube and everything, has kind of filtered its way into the mainstream. The understanding of those terms hasn't always filtered into the mainstream in quite the way we would like. So it's a little bit like when people go, oh, stop gaslighting me. Like, that's not gaslighting. That's not what that means. Or I'm setting a boundary. No, that's not a boundary. You're trying to control somebody. Like, that's not the same thing. So there's a lot of this. Sometimes with these terms, like, we don't necessarily fully understand what is meant by the inner child and how is it really relevant. Like, I mean, I know that people say, oh yes, I've got to take care of my inner child. How do you do that? And what does the inner child have to do with needs? A hell of a lot is what I'll say about that. Last little point. The two are kind of inextricably linked in a lot of ways. Because the inner child is that part of us that even as adults still kind of retains those childlike qualities. And a lot of the time our inner child is there, and the way that we know that our inner child is there, if we realize this is what's happening, is that when we get triggered about something that impacts one or more of the universal needs that were not met in childhood, our inner child is the part of us that literally throws their toys out of the pram and makes their presence very, very known. So it's the part that's like when you get like disproportionately angry or disproportionately distressed about something that is triggering something that was neglected or not supported adequately when we were a child. That's the part of us that comes up, and it's the part that's like, it's not fair, why me, this always happens to me, like that when you start that, when those thoughts start coming to mind, chances are your inner child is at the wheel. And the truth of the matter is that having your inner child take the wheel is a little bit like literally like having a child take the wheel of a car. Because like as an adult, there's lots of things that we have to take care of that children really shouldn't be dealing with. And very much like if you were driving a car, like you don't want a toddler behind the wheel of a vehicle. There's a reason that there's an age you have to hit before you can get your license. I mean,
have you ever seen the inner child come out at a business meeting? That's that like.
Yes.
I think you need to play with some blocks.
Right. There's a content creator that I follow on YouTube, and I watch it. Like she does reaction videos, and I've watched her for years. It's like one of those like things I have on in the morning in the background, because it requires none of my brain power whatsoever. It's just something to kind of stop my little ADHD brain from running away with itself. And so I often have her in the background, like while I'm getting ready in the morning. And her name's Charlotte Dobray. And she often has like when people are getting like when you have these adults that are getting like out of control, she like pulls an iPad out of her drawer, and she's like, "Here, Cocomelon, here, watch Cocomelon." Like, and it's like, yeah, it feels like that sometimes, right? Like it's like how you are, like you're behaving like a toddler right now. And if you're behaving like a toddler, or even you feel that urge and that inclination to behave that way, chances are your inner child is being activated. And it's like I said, like you don't want a toddler behind the wheel of a car, because like a toddler is going to overreact to every little thing because they're not used to driving a car. So it's like, oh, there's something comes towards it, and they're going to like swing the car to the right in order to avoid the thing on the left, and then they crash into three things on the right, and then oh shit, oh no, okay, so they just swing the car back to the left, they take out a row of trash cans and another bicycle, or hopefully not with somebody on it, and like that's kind of how it feels. It's where this kind of everything feels overwhelming, everything feels like over dramatic, because if you think about it, like when you are a child, that's how your world operates. Like everything is life or death to a child. Everything is like their entire world is shattering, because we haven't developed the part of our brain that can rationalize and think differently. So a lot of the time when we're in that place where our emotions are kind of completely taking over, and a lot of time when we get into amygdala hijack, so amygdala is like the part of our brain that is really active when we're very emotional, and amygdala hijack is where it literally shuts down the part of the brain that is responsible, that like the frontal lobe and everything that is responsible for like rational thought and logic and communication and all those sorts of things, and that's when you get to the point where you can't communicate effectively. And when that's happening, chances are your inner child may be making their presence known. And as I said, the reason that our inner child is a thing, I mean, we all have, like all of the parts of us are kind of present throughout all of our lives. But the reason we talk about the inner child in the way that we do is because there's stuff that's from our childhood that hasn't been adequately healed. So we're pulling that and those traumas and those wounds and those triggers into adult life. So just because you do healing around your inner child doesn't mean that part of you is going to disappear. It just means that it can have fun and be playful and get to be like whimsical and do the kind of fun stuff that Serena and I love to do on the regular. Like, I mean, we were just talking this morning about costumes for an event that's coming up. It's going to be so much fun, and like bubbles and like lights and all these kind of fun things. Like that's what, like when you get to the point where you've kind of healed these traumas from our childhood, that's what your inner child is really responsible for. It's like it's the part of you that wants to play and wants to have fun, and a lot of time part that wants to be creative, and the part that that wants to indulge in all of these little parts, the whimsical parts of ourselves. So it's not like the inner child ever goes away. In fact, they can be really valuable. We engage with our inner child on a regular basis, and it's really fucking awesome, and I highly recommend doing it. And before you can get to the point where they can really take care of play and fun and whimsy and all of those different things, first you have to heal the pieces of their experience that weren't adequately dealt with. Now, I'm not saying, a lot of the time when you think about things like this, people think about, oh, that must be for people who had like super traumatic childhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that's also, it is true. And remember, go back to the trauma series. We have done the trauma series, right? We talked about the different types of trauma. 99.999% we've done an episode on that. If you haven't
I'll go 100%
heard,
on that. That exists.
So if you
Gosh,
haven't heard, no, I'm sure we've done that one because we've referenced it, and I know it's been in show notes. Like we've done that one, I know we have. So because we did it twice, we did it the first time and went, oh, that we didn't work as well as we should have done. Let's do it again, and we made it much clearer the second time around. So there's two versions of this one, so you can go back and listen to either one of them. I recommend the second over the first, personally. But if you want to understand what we're talking about when we talk about trauma, we're not just talking about these huge, great, like huge scale traumas that are relevant to these situations. Traumas can also be these slight things that, if not adequately addressed and healed, we can carry forward with this, especially if there's slight things that are happening on a sustained basis, where it's something that isn't that big of a deal, but because it happens consistently over a prolonged period of time, we get to the point where it becomes this bigger thing and it's having this bigger impact on us. And for so many of us, even if we haven't had these huge, big, significant, severe traumas in our childhood, we may have experienced a little bit of neglect of some of our needs just because our parents didn't know about the universal needs. They didn't know. I mean, we're children of the 80s. Like, you were lucky if your parents knew, or your caregivers knew, that they had to make sure that you were fed, watered, clean, and going to nursery or school or something. I mean, Gen X, I am Gen X by 20 days. So I'm like, I hold on to my little Gen X. I mean, technically, like I'm on the cusp of Gen X and millennial. But
I feel like I'm more Gen X. Like, I am millennial, like when it comes to my age, but I am definitely more like.
That's very true.
I am a Gen.
You relate more to the Gen
X
X experience.
Yes,
definitely.
I grew up in the 80s like a Gen X child, and like eating paint chips.
You grew up feral in the 80s, like most of us did.
Yeah,
where, like most of our parents didn't know where we were, and we had to like get ourselves home generally before dark, but sometimes not. And like
sometimes
like
not.
It's like it. I mean, it's when you're talking about and so they were focused on like, are you physically safe? Are you hydrated? Do you have nutrition? Are you sick? Have you an injury that needs taken care of? But most of our caregivers were of a generation that didn't really understand our emotional needs, mainly because they didn't understand their own, quite frankly. But we'll move past that one very quickly, sidestep past that. We'll come back to that on another occasion, I'm sure. And so, like, if they don't understand their own emotional needs, how can they take full care and appropriately meet the emotional needs of their children? Well, they can't. And what this means is that, and it's not because they didn't want to, it's not because they didn't care. A lot of time it's just they didn't know. A lot of time it's because they were still children themselves. Like, my parents had me at a point where I know brain development isn't completed yet. Like, it's like our brains don't get fully developed until we're around the age of 25. Well, if you're having children at 21, how can you expect for those first 4 years of their life to be able to adequately support them when you're not fully developed yourself yet? I mean, it's not, as I said, none of this is because people intend to, and of course there are people who've had like abusive childhoods, and obviously we'll put a trigger warning on this in terms of the show notes to make sure people know we're going to be talking about these things, and there might be these severe traumas that they've had in childhood. But the truth of the matter is, if we had a need or multiple needs that weren't adequately met on a regular basis, that is going to have caused a trauma in our system. And until we go through the process of healing that trauma, we are going to carry that wound and those triggers with us going forward.
I think a lot of people also think of, when we're talking about kind of inner child stuff and we're talking about childhood traumas, they automatically go back home and they're like, no, my home life was great. Yeah. And whether or not, like, if you dissect that, whether or not that is true, because I grew up, I'm like, oh, I had a great childhood. And as I got older, I still believe I had a great childhood. Like, and there are some things I'm like, oh, that's where that fucked me up. Like, and it wasn't something until I started doing like inner child work and that kind of thing to realize, like,
and understanding your needs.
And exactly. And being like, well, they didn't know any better. And okay, so now we're going to deal with this.
An impact.
But I'm like, the scope is like, it's difficult. I mean, as an adult, it's difficult being an adult. It's difficult being a fucking human. Like, I'll put it there. Like humaning is hard. But if we think about like children, all the different factors, you know, we can create a bubble for them, so to speak, in the home life. But then you put them into like the school system or extracurriculars or into the supermarket, like all of these places, and you have media and social media now, and like all these things that can then impact this child's needs. You have, I mean,
right.
I don't know many children who haven't struggled with friendships at some point, and the trauma that leaves from the security perspective alone. And like you think about it's, that's just a part
and
of
the
childhood,
love perspective and the value perspective and the yes.
And it's that bigger, you know, we need to widen the bubble, especially when we're working on our own inner child stuff, being like, okay, like look at the scope of childing, like being a kid.
Yeah, what happened during childhood, and it doesn't necessarily mean, you're right, it's not just our home life that we're talking about. And so one of the most effective ways to start doing healing around the inner child work is to go back to those points in time where things happened, maybe not as a one-off, if it was a big thing, or maybe it was something that was smaller but that more consistently, and looking at what needs were negatively impacted by that, what needs weren't supported by that, and weren't cultivated. And when we start to understand those kind of parts of ourselves and what it was that they were needing, we can then start supporting those needs. Here's the key. In the same way as you would do to a child, because that is the part of you that is receiving that. Like, it's all very well trying to meet your value need, or trying to meet your emotional experience expression need, or trying to meet your love need. But if you're doing it in the way that an adult would be able to understand it, that's not necessarily the same way that a child would be able to understand it. And that part of you really has a lot of the time stayed at that point in time. Like, it hasn't really developed beyond that. And so you want to relate to that part of you. This is the reason that people talk about reparenting themselves or parenting their inner child. It's because you, as the adult now, are able to relate to that. You can be the adult that child needed that they didn't have at the time, because you now, I mean, you're listening to the podcast, you know something about needs. I mean, you know they exist for a start. I mean, that's probably streets ahead of, I don't know, 40% of the population at least. You might not know all of them and what they are, but the more you listen, the more you will understand that. And we've also got some exciting things that are coming in the future I'm working on recently that I'm so excited to get out there, so you can really get this stuff and really understand it better. But I'm not going to tiptoeing around the rabbit holes and jumping, vaulting over others. And so
you're really taking this Alice in Wonderland theme to heart, aren't you?
I mean, Alice in Wonderland is very dear to my heart, thanks to Serena. It's if you haven't heard the story, I'm sure we'll share it on another time, when she threw me an unbirthday party for my pre-40th birthday celebration, in which I was actually Alice and she was the Cheshire Cat, and it's been a recurring theme with us. So yeah, it's very dear to my heart, but it also feels like very relevant to what we're talking about right now, because like thinking about like how would we have related to, how do you relate to a child? And that's the thing, is that so often when we are thinking about value need as an adult, we just got to remind ourselves of the fact that we are worthy. We've got to remind myself that I'm enough just as I am. Like, and as an adult, I mean, you might want to go a little further than that as an adult. And that's something that an adult can process. But if you imagine if you had a toddler or a 7-year-old in front of you who was not feeling enough, how would you communicate that to them? The first thing you'd probably do is you'd probably give them a hug. You'd probably touch them or hold them in some way. You would have them feel safe and secure, and you would talk to them in a way which would build trust with them. And this is the thing with I'm not saying that this is, one thing that's important to say about the inner child stuff is that it may be something that you have the capacity to do on your own. It also is something that if you have the ability to, I strongly advise getting some professional support with this part of you. I mean, I had it when I was doing inner child work. I actually did it for Serena when Serena was doing the inner child work. It really does help to have somebody to support you and guide you through this stuff, because it can bring up a lot of emotions. It can be a little overwhelming. And also, like, for example, when we take people through inner child work as part of the universal needs work, there is actually another step that we add on to it, which gives the adult you support in being there to support your inner child. Because that's one of the things that a lot of people miss with this. It's like they're like, oh yes, you have to reparent your child, and you're like, I'm barely able to take care of myself as an adult. You were going to mean I've got to take care of a child as well? I'm like childless by choice. I was not meant to have children. I wasn't supposed to have to do this part of this. And so a lot of the time, the adult part of us also needs some support in that, and that's something that can be really helpful. And if you're just kind of figuring this out yourself, you may not have that piece of the puzzle added to it.
Well, it's also helpful to have somebody there that's done the work themselves, because it does feel a little silly at first for certain things, because your inner child comes out and it's like all of a sudden you want to, like, you have this urge to be called a different name when you're like doing your inner child work, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why am I thinking this way? Why do I all of a sudden
stomp your feet or like throw things around the room and like do things that children, that's the impulsive part of our childhood that we kind of learn to tweak, should we say, as we go into adult. Not saying that we don't get impulsive as adults, we do, but we learn to make choices around those impulses, but we don't necessarily have that as children. And when that part of you comes up, it's like you're right back there again. It's like you feel like a child in a lot of ways, and it can be a little disconcerting, so it can really help if you have that support. The other thing is that, now bear in mind, I did inner child work when I was in my 30s, I would say. Now, bear in mind, that means that this part of me has been pretty much ignored for best part of 2 or 3 decades. So when I first started doing this work, this part of me wasn't all like, la, 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 let's go play. It was always like, what are you doing here? I'm pissed off with you. You've kind of left me to deal with this shit on my own. And I'm scared and I'm hurt and I'm like sad and I'm angry and I'm glad you're here, but I don't trust you because you haven't been here this entire time. And it's all of this sort of stuff comes up. And so what we want to do is we want to start to build trust with this part of ourselves. And so same things you would with a child. If you had like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old in front of you who is going through some stuff and you want to help them with it, you're not just going to walk straight in and start dealing with it. You're going to cultivate trust first. You're going to listen to them. You're going to make sure that they understand that you're listening to them. You hear them and that you feel that you help them to feel heard. You let them come to you. You can offer a hug. And if they don't want a hug, you're not going to force the hug on them because this is going to because that's going to undermine the trust. And you want to take that same approach with this part of you, which is that you want to listen to them. You want to hear them. If they felt ignored for this time, you want to apologize to them. And we have the apology, 6 essential steps to an apology, or 6 essential parts to an apology, episode, which we'll put in the show notes. And you want to apologize to them. You want to show them that you're there. You want to show and start to cultivate trust with them. And then what you're going to do is support those needs in the way that child can hear. So if you're wanting to help support their value need, think about if you were talking to the child. Like, I mean, I've talked about the conversations I've had with my different nibblings at various points, especially my niece. There have been lots of times where she's like, I can't do that. And I'm like, you can do it. Like, I'm here. Like, you're not alone. I've got, like, I'll hold your hand while you're doing it. But I think you can do this. Like, let me help you. Let me show you how you can do it. And I'm here while you're doing it. And then when you start to do that, oh, look, you're doing it. See, I said you could do it. You're amazing. Like, and like building that confidence until you get to the point where they don't need your hand anymore. Like, oh, I've got this, Auntie Claire. Step back, watch me go. And you want to take that same kind of approach to that part of you. And as Serena said, it can feel a little bit silly when you first start doing it. It's like, okay, I'm talking to myself, but I'm also a kid. But I don't feel like a kid. But oh, hold on. Oh, it feels like well, I do feel like a kid, maybe. And it's like, how do you do it? That's the reason doing this with some guidance and support is really, really beneficial. I said I didn't do inner child work by myself when I first started doing it, and I support other people going through this process now. As Serena doesn't. It's something that very much makes a difference if you have somebody else there holding space, witnessing, and giving you that guidance and reminding you to relate to that part of you as a scared or angry or hurt child, because that is what they need. They need to be seen. They need to be heard. And once they start to build that trust with you, and once you start to, they know that you're there for them, and that if there's something coming up and that a need from childhood has been triggered by something that's happening in the present, they know they can be like, I'm over here, help. And you can be like, okay, give me just a second while I do it. Like a little bit like with a child, like if you're dealing with something and a child's like panicking over here, be like, give me 2 seconds, let me just finish this. Okay, now I've like, what can we do? Let's figure this out. Let's figure this out together. And when you start to do that, it's amazing how much relief you kind of feel in your system, because what you realize is that part of you is there all the time. And that part of you is so scared because their needs weren't met as a child. And so their needs still aren't met. And because they're scared, they try and take over to try and keep themselves safe. But they don't have the means to keep themselves safe. It's like back to the car analogy again. It's like, oh, I want to drive the car because I'm scared. Like, if you're scared, the worst possible thing for you is to be driving the car because you don't know how to. So how about, okay, I get you're scared right now. I'm going to listen to you. How about you sit in the passenger seat and I'll talk to you. Like, you can see, I'm listening to you. If you're scared about this thing that's coming over here, I'm either going to show you why it's okay, or I'm going to maneuver so that you don't have to worry about that. It's like, I don't know about that road. I want to go down that road. That road looks scary to me. Okay, we don't have to go that way. There's another route we can take. Why don't we go this way instead? And if you show that part of yourself that you're listening and that you are hearing what they are saying and that you are responding to them and you are going to take care of their needs, that part can like let go of the control. It can let go of the steering wheel and go, oh, okay, this is way more fun if somebody else does the driving. I don't have to worry about that because like that's not like my feet don't even reach the pedals. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And at that point in the process, that part of you can really focus on what it's good at, which is playfulness, fun, whimsy, creativity. And once you've done the healing of the needs of that part of you has been unmet for all of these years, then how you meet the needs of your inner child is to connect to those parts of it, because that's what that part of you is all about. It's about play and having fun. Like, one of the things that I started doing, like, and it was, I still love doing it now. And it still feels a little bit silly. I love twirling. Like, twirling is fun. And how many adults twirl? Like, not many. It doesn't happen very often. But when I get that reminder of like, oh, I want to connect to my inner child, that's one of the things that comes up. Being with animals. I was a huge animal lover as a kid, and I love being with animals. And that's a part of me that comes out when, like, how many people when they're around a dog or a cat, it's like, oh my goodness, you're such a like, that's your inner child coming out. Like, that's that part of you that's like, oh my goodness, like, oh my goodness, you're so cute. You're so cute. I need you. Right? Exactly. And it's like, that's the part, and like, we want to nourish and support that part of us by doing the things that our inner child not only taking care of our needs and making sure we're listening to them when they're afraid and reassuring them and keeping ourselves safe and secure, keeping them safe and secure, taking care of the needs consistently that work. Because this is not a one and done. It's not like, okay, these needs weren't met in childhood and we've had 30 years of not having them met. We've done it once. Okay, check, moved on to next. What are we doing next then? That's not how that works. You need to be consistent with that. And once you've been consistent with that, you can then start to connect to the things that bring your inner child joy. And a lot of the times, those were either things you did as a child or things you wanted to do as a child, but were not allowed to, were not able to do. And like I saw this brilliant TikTok this week where this guy was like, he said, oh my God, he's like, kids these days have the best toys. Like, why didn't we have toys like this when we were kids? And then I realized I'm an adult and I have money. And he pulls out this toy and it's like a dancing, wiggling squid thing. So it's like a plastic thing with like lots of wiggly tentacles that stand up and the tentacles wiggle. And so it kind of wiggles and dances. And the laughter that comes from this guy is pure inner child joy. His inner child is loving it. And it was like, and then the funny thing is that I then saw another video from a couple of days later. He's like, I didn't show you this because I thought you might judge me for it, but I didn't just get, I got him friends too. And there's like 3 of them. And he's like his laughter is even further amplified. And so this is like, and this is like when we can kind of connect to that joy and that wonder and that awe and that sense of magic and whimsy, our needs as adults become more fulfilled because we are actually acknowledging all of the parts of us and meeting all of their needs, not just the adult in charge who's got to go to work and make sure they pay the bills and everything. That's an important part. We need to take care of that. And when you can start to bring in the other elements and meet needs of those parts of you as well, that's when the magic really happens.
It really does. I mean, like I'm thinking about how silly we are sometimes. And I mean, we get shit done. We do a lot of work. We do like intense work. And I've always been kind of silly, kind of weird. Like I before I even knew about in my inner child, I was fairly connected with like embracing more the good. Like I was able to connect to the whimsy. I was like, I don't care what you think, I'm wearing a tutu today. Like that kind of connection. And it was interesting when Claire and I first started doing inner child work because I'm like, oh, my childhood was good. My inner child's happy. Look at I like glitter and confetti and twirling and all of the things. And then we get down to it and I'm like, oh, so that outburst was that was my inner child. Oh, and that was my inner child. And that was my inner child. But now, like, I don't feel her come, like, up and out. It's like you said, it's like, hey. And I'm like, oh, hey, sorry, like, adulting. And then it allows us to consistently fostering that whimsy and all those good things we want. It's also because we're consistently listening for that same inner child to be like we don't want them to scream at us. We don't want them to be on the floor having a temper tantrum, holding our breath. And as children can be in real life, sometimes they can be a little annoying. Like, and sometimes your inner child can be like, you know, hey, I want to spin. And it's like, no, we're in a corporate meeting right now. We can't spin. Hey, I kind of want to spin. Oh, well, once we're done with this, we can go outside and spin. And like, I'm not spinning now. Like, and you sometimes need to have these conversations and within yourself. And you're like, am I telling myself I'm not going to spin in a meeting right now? And it's like, and I haven't had that exact example happen, but I've had things close where I'm like, little Serena, this is not the time.
and the thing about this is that the reason, and it's a little bit like, again, it's a little bit like when you are relating to an actual child. If that child is constantly feeling ignored and they're constantly feeling neglected and they're constantly feeling like, if they're trying to get your attention, they're going to keep trying to get your attention. They're going to keep trying to get your attention. And if you say a little bit later, they're going to be like, I don't believe you. No, now, like I need now. Whereas if you do take care of their needs consistently, if you say, I just got to finish this thing and then we can go do something fun. They're going to trust that because you've cultivated that trust, and because you've let them know, okay, I hear you. And when you let me know something, I will make it happen at the first available opportunity. And that opportunity isn't always right this second. And as soon as it is available, that's what we're going to do.
I also think it's important to be proactive with your inner child, because a lot of times we wait for the calling, whether it's, you know, the angry inner child or the whimsical one. It's like, oh, my inner child is speaking to me. I need to listen. Now, a lot of people don't have the desire, time, capacity, whatever it is, to dive into the traumatic inner child work, because that often brings up, you know, we start with a little nugget and then all of a sudden it's bloomed into this big thing that, you know, we then have to deal with. And as we have the capacity, stepping into those spaces to be like, hey, all right, do I need to check in, or doing things that you know your inner child would like, not because they're saying, hey, I need to get out of here and I need to have fun, because you know it's something that would meet your inner child's needs, that it's something that would serve you, that would bring that element of fun or whimsy or whatever your outcome is that you're trying to create.
Right. And when it comes to that kind of deeper, more challenging work, when it comes to inner child, what I'll say is it's like everything in life. You can put it off so long, but eventually you're going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to put it off anymore, because it's going to cause an explosion. And eventually it's like, I don't know, we don't have that. It's a little bit like with burnout. It's like you can kind of push the boundaries in terms of you what your capacity has for a period of time, and eventually you're going to hit that point where it's like, oh no, you're in bed for 3 weeks because you've pushed yourself and you've ended up causing yourself to be sick as a result of it.
And your body's like, I don't trust you to do this in a way that's responsible, so now you're laid up for 3 weeks.
Now you're going to have to deal with it. And like the same thing is like, same thing can be true with the inner child stuff. Is like, if they're like pulling on your pant leg like repeatedly and you're not listening to them, eventually they're going to make themselves known. And so it maybe you don't have to dive straight into the hardest stuff, but maybe you start to deal with some of the stuff that's on the cusp, because it releases some of the pressure around it, and it actually builds your capacity for going into it a little bit deeper. It also shows you as an adult it's not as big and scary as you think it is. Like a lot of the time we're worried that this stuff is going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be completely overwhelmed and I'm going to drown in all this, and I'm not going to know my way out. And that's also the reason it can be helpful to do this with somebody else, because they can act as your guide if you get to that point where you feel overwhelmed and stuck. But the truth of the matter is it's nowhere near as difficult or as traumatic as people think it is. And it means that, and generally speaking, and even when you're dealing with very traumatic things, like a lot of the time, like when I've worked with clients on this, like we can have been dealing with some very traumatic stuff, but the actual processing of that trauma isn't anywhere near as overwhelming as people expect it to be. It doesn't take as long as they expect it to. And the care around those needs is easier to do than they believe it will be. So I'm not going to say it's in all circumstances, but I will say that I reckon 90% of the time, the process is much easier than people believe it will be. The other thing, the reason this relates to needs, is that there's actually a need that sits in the leaves and fruit of your universal needs tree, which this is a part. Like bringing together and acknowledging all the different parts of yourself and supporting all of their needs is one of the ways that you meet that need. Now, I'm not saying that that we know that we want to take care of the roots of the tree first, and we want to work our way up to the leaves and the fruit. So I'm not suggesting that you start there, but taking care of the needs of that part of yourself might sit in the leaves and the fruit of the tree. But if the need that is coming up that needs to be met is your security need, well, that's in the roots of the tree, my friend. And just because it's the inner child that's prompting you to take care of that need, that doesn't make it any less yours. And that's the other thing with this. We don't want to dissociate from that part of us and go, well, that's the inner child's needs. That's not mine. Honey, they are you. Like you're one of the same thing. It's easier to understand it and relate to it when we kind of see it as a child that we need to take care of. And all they're doing is going, hey, come on, like mirror, your security need is up right now. Like you're feeling unsafe right now. I'm just one letting you know that you're feeling unsafe right now, because apparently you aren't paying attention to that. And so I'm going to make sure that you listen. And if you don't listen, I'm going to keep screaming until you do. And so like, while it is important, it's a helpful tool to be able to look at this part of us and go, okay, this is the child part of me. And I need to relate to that part like a child. I need to take care of it the way that I would take care of a child. That part is still a part of you. And so by taking care, but so if you're ignoring, you're trying to put off dealing with like resolving and addressing their needs, you're just hurting yourself in the process. And you will hit a point where you won't be able to ignore it anymore. We've both seen it in ourselves and in other people, whether it comes to the inner child, whether it comes to the inner critic, whether it comes to some other element of needs. You can only ignore your needs for so long before you are forced to face them. So it is helpful to go and take care of this part. And once you've kind of done a large amount of that healing, you've built that trust, and as I said, you started to get your little whimsy on, and you started to connect to this part of you. It's important to allow yourself to do this in whichever way feels right for you. So another thing that I think is a really big example of people starting to really pay attention and take care of this part of ourselves is adults having stuffy toys. Like, for a long time, that wasn't considered appropriate. Like, if you had an adult that had a cuddly toy, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's a bit strange. Now it is very common, and it is very common. And a lot of adults are now engaging in things where they're like, they are engaging special interests that they either had as a child or wanted to have as a child and weren't allowed to. So like adults who are very much into Lego. We have a friend of ours who was like super into like some kids movies. And they were really into them and they loved them and they wanted to buy the stuff from them and everything. And some people were like, oh, that's a bit much. And I'm like, I love this. I love that you are embracing the things that bring you joy. And the truth of the matter is, let's get back to the need stuff. As long as you are not negatively impacting yourself, your needs, somebody else, their needs, or the needs ecosystem, you do you when it comes to the meeting of your needs. If there is something that brings you joy, I was about to say, why the hell would you let somebody else? And we'll get to that in a second. Like, if there is something that brings you joy and you're not negatively impacting yourself, somebody else, or the needs ecosystem, allow yourself to embrace that. And here's the reason that we don't, is that because so often our needs are so unmet and we are so dependent on other people and how other people think about us or feel about us to get our needs met, that we are terrified of doing anything that might create judgment from somebody else, because along with that, that's going to have a domino effect on a bunch of our needs. So one of the ways that you can allow yourself to embrace more of the childlike wonder, to embrace more of the whimsy, to do the things that are going to bring you joy, is to meet your needs to the point where you do not need somebody else's approval. You don't need somebody else to like you in order for you to get your needs met. And not only that, but when you then embrace yourself fully, all of the aspects of yourself. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I'm such an odd person in many, many ways.
So we
don't
don't
verify. But part of the reason I'm so odd is because I can be incredibly serious and very deep, and I can be incredibly silly and very unserious. And the two often show up at the same time. Like, it's not like, okay, we're in serious mode now and we're going to stay in serious mode and then we're going to be in silly mode. Like, we can be having a serious conversation and then something silly will pop up and then I'll drop back into serious and then something silly will pop up. And so, and like that, in kind of embracing all of these parts of me, the cool thing is that when you embrace all these parts of you and you do the things that bring you joy, you find the other people who are also into the same things that you are, and you find the places where you belong, and you can like geek out about the things that you love. And even if those things are not traditionally adult things, who the fuck cares? Like, seriously, who cares if it's something that's labeled adult versus something that is labeled for children? As long as you are not hurting anybody, yourself, somebody else, or the needs ecosystem, who cares? If it's bringing you joy and it's helping you find your people, then that is something that we encourage you to embrace. Like, how many people do we know where, like, I mean, I've got one of my closest friends, super geek around Star Wars. Like he loves Star Wars. Like he's theming his new place on Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars girly, but I do know enough to be able to play with him in the things that he loves about it. And I've been able to engage with it in such a way that I've been able to help him out with suggesting things for decor and like buy gifts for him that are like appropriate and that fit into the theme. And I know he's going to love. And like, as far as I'm concerned, it's not my thing, but it brings him joy and he's my friend. Oh my God. Yes. How do I support you in this? Like, how do I help engage with that thing that you really love? And this is the thing, is that if we really love people, we want them to be happy. We want them to be joyful. We want their inner child to be able to play and have fun. And so notice where you notice your judgment coming up about somebody else engaging with their inner child, because I would put money on the fact that the reason that is there is because you haven't allowed yourself to connect with yours. And rather than judging somebody else for doing so, I would make a suggestion that you use that as an opportunity to think, well, what is it that, like, if I'm noticing I'm judging them, what is it that I want to do that I'm not letting myself do? How could I start playing with that? And that's going to change things completely.
It's interesting. As you're saying that, one of the first times that inner child kind of came into the conversation that wasn't just Claire and I like doing inner child work together. It was a birthday where we were celebrating the person wanted to do a witch ride on their bike, and we were all going to dress up as witches. And so we're all, like, we're totally into it. And they showed up, and their outfit was something different than I had ever expected them to be in. Like, totally fine, but it was very different for this person. And, like, my inner child wanted to wear this, and I was like, I don't think I've ever let my inner child dress me. Like, and thinking of the different, I was like,
oh, you have? You just haven't realized that's what was happening.
That's what was happening. Yeah. And that was one of those moments that I was like, oh, like, you can touch point with your inner child and be like, if I'm doing something fun now, I usually check in and I'm like, hey, anything you want to do? Like, yes. Like, where do you want to bring this? And it brings a different element to whatever I'm doing, because it feels I'm more wholly in it because I am connecting myself on different levels.
Right. Like, even just the conversations that we've been having this morning about the events that we're going to be involved in coming up, and the costumes and things, like, my inner child is like so fucking excited. They're like, yay, we get to play, we get to dress up, we get to do something fun, and like, this is going to be amazing. And I mean, there's a dragon involved and I love dragons, so I'm like, I mean, she's living her best life right now. Like, my inner child is all like, yes, this is it, whatever this is, more of this, please. And what I think is really really cool about this is that when you start to do this and you embrace that part of yourself, you can then start to let your inner child play and have fun with other people's inner child. When Serena and my inner childs get together, I mean, watch the fuck out is all I'm saying. Because they have imaginations like nothing I've ever experienced. And the things that they come up with, and the things it encourages us to do that maybe previously we wouldn't have done. And it's like, oh no, this sounds like fun. Okay, this sounds like this could be cool. And like, it's funny, there's when I remember when we were first starting to do this work, when Serena was first starting to do this work, I'd done the work a few years previously, that when her inner child came out, like, I got this song stuck in my head, and it's a song by a British band called Take That, and the lyrics are, there'll be trouble when the kids come out, like, and I was like, oh yes, there will be. Like, I was like when we let these two loose. And that's the thing, is that like, we, like, as Serena said, we work very hard, we have very serious work that we do, like some of the content that we cover is kind of deep and kind of heavy and very brain intensive. I can tell you, having gone and done a review of it over the last, whatever it is, like 8 days or whatever, it's a lot. And we work very hard, we hustle, we do we do what we need to get the work done. And because we have that part of ourselves, it is so important to allow that other part of ourselves. room to breathe, room to be experienced, room to have their needs met, because otherwise we end up kind of slowly kind of killing one part of ourselves. Like that light, that light of that inner child, like starts to kind of get smaller and smaller and dimmer. And it's like, by allowing that part what it needs as well, it gives us fuel for the other things that we are doing. And so because we do such heavy and serious work at times, like giving our inner children permission to go and play and have fun. And often that's often what happens when Serena and I say we're going to go on an adventure. And a lot of the time that's very much like our inner children are at the helm. It's like, okay, you decide what we're doing today. And it's like, I want to go do this and I want to go do this. And this sounds fun. Like I remember on my, Celebrate Being Alive Day, and we've talked about that on the podcast before. If you don't know what that is, it's the anniversary of my near-death experience when a sand truck reversed over me while I was meditating on the beach. I remember on that, it was like I think it was like the second Celebrate Being Alive Day that we did together. And I'd gone out and run some errands in the morning, and we were about to go. Serena was meeting me, and the plan was to go for breakfast. And she came over, and she was like, "You ready for breakfast?" I'm like, "We need to make a stop on the way." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, so I've seen the signs. It's the southernmost marathon this morning, and it's on my bucket list to finish a marathon. And like, I mean, Serena went white. I mean, I'm like, it's not on my list to start a marathon. That wasn't part of the deal.
I don't run.
Yes, I'm like, so we went down to the finish line of the marathon, and they let us run the last stretch of the marathon in flip-flops, I might add. We got given medals. We celebrated. It was fun. Like that was my inner child having fun. Like it wasn't like, that wasn't my adult going, well, I've always said I wanted to finish a marathon, so I've got to finish a marathon. That was part of me going, oh, we can have some fun with this. Let's go play. And that entire day, in fact, that was that we were out 27 and a half hours celebrating that day. I'm not sure we're doing that again anytime soon. I think we might be past that point. But I remember like there were so many things that day where it was just like, let's just go do this. Let's just go do that. And let's have some fun with this. And it was magical. And the things that we did and the people we met, like we made friends that day that we still have to this day. And our inner children had a blast. We pulled other people's inner children into the chaos we were creating, because people were like, oh, you two look fun. Oh, let's go. Yeah, whatever this is, I want to be a part of this. So they ended up coming along, and it became this like big impromptu kids party with a bunch of adults. And the same thing kind of felt true when like when I think about like the Alice in Wonderland celebration that Serena threw for my birthday, or the glitter themed celebration I threw for Serena's birthday. Like every single one of those has been, let's play. What's going to be fun here? And how do we, and with each of those situations, like I was the one doing something with Serena, or she was the one doing something for me. So it was only one of the inner children that were really kind of creating. When we get together and we go, okay, let's play together and let's figure this out together. I mean, yeah, stand back. There's going to be balloons. There's going to be glitter. There's going to be biodegradable. There's going to be confetti. There's going to be bubbles. Things. Yeah, I mean, like how many people have set themselves up to regularly dress as fairies in light up costumes and blow bubbles at whoever happens to be around? Like, if that's not your inner child speaking, I don't know what is. And Serena and I have set up a nonprofit that has enabled us to do just that. And in fact, that's one of the things that we keep needing to remind ourselves, because we're doing all this like serious work with the nonprofit. We have to remind ourselves we need to get back to fairying, because that's what started this, was that we wanted to go out and be fairies and spread love and fun and have some and have a good time. And so it's a question of finding that balance between the both, and giving your inner child permission every now and again to go, okay, we don't have anything planned today. What do you want us to do today? What do you need right now? And as Serena said, whether that's proactively, I mean, preferably proactively, because obviously when we proactively meet our needs, it means they don't get unmet. Or whether it's like you just suddenly realize, oh shit, like I need some fun. I haven't done this for a while. Happens to be like I said, I was just going through this review of the program, and I have been working solidly for the last 8 or 9 days, like first thing in the morning to late in the evening. I have made sure that I have my little program that prompts me to stretch my body while I'm doing it. I've made sure I've had my food and I've stayed hydrated and all those sorts of things. I've done my yoga in the morning. I've done other things. So Sunday I reviewed 2 modules on Sunday, and it was a lot of brain work. And it got to kind of mid-afternoon and I was like, I am exhausted. I'm so tired right now. And I was like, I got to get out and do something different. And I went to, here we have a thing called tea dance on a Sunday, which is like a afternoon thing where they play fun music and you can just go and dance. And I was like, I feel there's a part of myself that needs that. And oh my God, did I was like, do I have the energy to do this? I'm really tired right now. I'm like, let's just go. And so I went and I was singing at the top of my voice and I was boogieing my ass off, and I was having so much fun with the people there. I met some really cool people, and I was wearing my Too Magical for Any Bullshit shirt, and everybody loved that. Like everyone was like, "Oh my God, I love your shirt!" And I had my Throw Glitter Not Shade clack fan that I was playing with. And it was only afterwards, and on the way back, I decided to cycle back by the water. And I realized that what I had done is I'd just given myself an hour where my brain was able to not think. Not because, I mean, I could have sat here for an hour and tried not to think. That would have been about as helpful as a chocolate teapot. Because I needed to give it something else. And singing and dancing distracted my brain. I was able to be in fun mode. I wasn't thinking about the laundry list of content I still had to go through, or the fact that I needed to clean my space, or the fact that I needed to do laundry, or the fact that I needed to prepare for, make sure that we had things to record today. Not that we tend to do that in advance these days because we've got a list of things that we just choose from. But I wasn't thinking about any of the stuff that my brain was usually be thinking about. I wasn't thinking about apartment hunting. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just in the moment. I was singing and dancing. And that was like, that's what I needed. My entire being needed that. And I tell you something, my inner child got to dance on that dance floor the way she always wanted to as a child, but felt too self-conscious or too judged to do so. I was in the center of that dance floor. I was clacking my clack fan. I was singing at the top of my voice. I was shaking my ass. I didn't care. And that was the thing. I didn't care. I was just having fun. I was able to let loose and give that part of me the part that it's always wanting to do that. But I've always been worried, like, will people think I'm too much? Will people judge me? Will people not recently, but like when I was a kid, definitely I thought that. And I was afraid of being seen as the odd one out or somebody who like wasn't cool. So funny, someone described me as cool the other day. I was like, the last thing I think of myself as cool, but thank you. I appreciate it. I'm like, I don't really have any aspirations to be cool. Weird. Yes. Cool. Maybe not. But I'm like, but at one point I was concerned about being cool because that was the thing that could have made you popular or unpopular. And so that inner child, that part of myself was always a little bit guarded and always a little bit, wouldn't ever say go so far necessarily to say demure or mindful. But she was always a little bit dampened. She was always a little bit dimmed, a little bit muted. Not that anyone else would necessarily have understood that because they still thought I was extra even under those circumstances. But this was a great example of me letting her loose and not caring what anybody else thought of me. And it felt the joy it brought me to just be and to just dance and sing and have fun the way that I wanted to was, I don't have any words for it. I honestly don't. And like, if I hadn't healed my inner child, because my inner child was worried about not being good enough. My inner child was worried about not being liked. My inner child was worried about not being loved. But by healing those things and meeting those needs, I can get out on that dance floor and do whatever the fuck I like and not give a shit about what anybody thinks of me, because I know the people who love me will love me no matter what. So it doesn't matter. And more importantly, I love me no matter what. And I value me no matter what. And it's a pretty special experience.
It really is. Like 10 out of 10 recommend. Embrace your inner child.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add before we finish up for today?
Nope.
So what I'm going to do is slightly different today. I'm going to encourage you to embrace your inner child a little bit this week. And you don't have to do it like I did on a dance floor in public in front of everybody. You could just do it inside your own home, inside your own bedroom. Like if you want to have a twirl, you want to have a little boogie, you want to put some music on and have a dance. You want to make silly sounds. You want to like whatever it is. You want to color, you want to draw, you want to paint, you want to do like whatever it is. Give that part of you a little piece of joy this week and see how it feels. And if you want to share with us, please feel free to do so via our social media. We will be back again next week with another episode. Remember, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you so much. And between now and next time, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard,
I would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions.
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, when you begin to heal your inner child, it can open the door to lots of fun, playfulness, and whimsy.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.